Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode on the channel. If you are new here, don't forget to click that subscribe button. In today's video, I will be planting some tomatoes. So this is a great way to kill time if you're indoors and social distancing yourself from others. Planting these tomatoes will give you plenty of food in the summer months. The small greenhouse I'm using today is created by the company Jiffy. This is a really compact small starter kit that I found works really well. It has been about 3 days since I recorded this video, and I can already see growth in the plants. So stick around to the end of the video to see how the small plants look. So to start, I began to fill the container with water to expand each of the small pucks. These small pucks are really cool because they can save a lot of space when shipping them to stores or to your house. Being able to expand the soil is really cool. In my first video, I did add a little bit too much water to the container. I found that the correct amount of water for the container is to fill it about halfway, and the pucks will be able to absorb all of that water. When planting tomato seeds, you do not want the pucks to be too damp but only slightly damp. I found that if the pucks are heated with a heating mat underneath the tray and not soaking wet but only slightly damp, will encourage the seeds to sprout really quickly. And I also use the lids of the containers to keep the seeds damp by keeping all of the moisture created to stay inside these little tiny mini greenhouses. So you can see on the screen that the pucks are expanding. I did do a slight time lapse. They do grow very slowly. It takes them about 6 to 10 minutes. When planting the tomato seeds, I found it was really easy to put the seeds in my hand and then choose about 2 to 3 seeds for each pod, and then just lightly put them on top of the surface. And then after you put seeds on top of each pod so you can keep track of which pods you filled and which pods you didn't fill, just push them gently underneath the surface of the soil. In a couple of pods, I did try to put only one seed just to see if it'll grow a little bit better. A lot of people recommend that you plant 2 seeds and then cut the tomato that does not grow as strongly as the other seed. But I don't really like doing that. What I usually do is if there's a tomato struggling, I'll usually pull it out of the soil and put it in a different container. Just that way I'm not wasting those tomatoes. So in this third row, I'm experimenting by putting more seeds than what I did on the first 2 rows. So I'm doing just a small experiment here. I want to see if I start multiple tomatoes together, if I can separate them at a later date and if they'll still be able to grow. So on these 2 rows, I did do it slightly differently. So each of the rows of this container, I did plant differently. So some have more seeds and some have less seeds. I did keep track of this on a sheet of paper for my own personal use. And it's just a small experiment that I am trying just to see if I can separate a bunch of small tomatoes at a later date and have more tomatoes coming out of a 72 tomato plant container. Usually people will only have 72 tomato plants coming out of the container, but I kind of wanted to get the most tomatoes I can possible out of this container. So on this row, I actually tried pushing down the soil before putting the seeds in, and then just gently tapping the seeds into the soil. I found the best way was to put the seeds on your palm and then gently push them into the soil afterwards. Putting the seeds in this way, sometimes the seeds will fall to the bottom of the container, and it's a little bit difficult to try and get the seeds back out of the bottom of the container once they're in there, just because the pucks are really soft and they could fall apart, and I didn't want to risk the pucks falling apart when I pulled them out. On the very last row of this container, I did do another experiment. I'm planting a couple of sunflower seeds. I only put 1 sunflower seed per pot of the container while I was planting them. And you can see that I put some of my own personal seeds in the second last row. So these are seeds that I dried out last year from the garden. Usually I plant these directly outside, but I wanted to see how a couple of them started in this pot, and actually a couple of them did come up, and I'll show you that clip at the end of the video. So my seeds, I did put them on a paper towel when I was drying them. They do get stuck to the paper towel. I don't recommend using a paper towel to dry the seeds. This was just me being lazy last year, and I didn't use the proper strainer to strain the seeds, and they got stuck to the paper towel. So I just wanted to see if they would still grow. This is just a whole little experiment for me, just having some fun during the social distancing that's going on currently in Canada. So in the very last row, I had some sunflower seeds left over from last year. I actually got them free, I believe, from the Honey Nut Cheerio company. You could just send them an email and they'll send you seeds. I don't know if they're still doing that this year. but they would send you a little small package of sunflower seeds, which is really cool. Sunflowers usually come up pretty quickly, so I only put one per container. So here is a shot of the basil so far, and this has only been 3 to 4 days. The heat mat underneath the basil really helped the basil to come up really quickly. You can see in this container we actually have a couple of the tomatoes already coming up. So the ones where I planted multiple tomatoes within the plot seem to have come up before the other tomatoes, but we'll see what happens. The sunflowers are growing really strong. I'm really impressed with the sunflowers. I always get the sunflowers growing. They're really easy to start. And the last clip here is just the seed heating mat that I use. It's really cool. You can see that tomatoes take 6 to 8 days to start. Basil is supposed to be 5 to 7, but it came up way faster than that, and I think it's to do with the greenhouse lids. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the video.